Hello.
Hey, got robbed last night.
What's Bob Dylan?
How could I answer that if you got the nerve to ask me?
It happened so long ago, I wasn't even born.
A song that doesn't pussyfoot around nor turn a blind eye to human nature.
Who threw that glass to the street? Who did it? I'm a translation to go to animal my soul, admit my return.
How about rap?
I'm afraid to go on the internet. I'm afraid some pervert's gonna lure me somewhere.
You want some eggs?
You're getting into the spirit, I can tell. How was it?
It was so great. Obviously, it was so great. Forest Hills, iconic venue. I'd never been there before. It is a stadium, but it is very small for a stadium. So it like really felt like, I mean, it was originally a tennis stadium, so it was very enclosed. Even though I wasn't like near the front, it still was very intimate. Bob was great. It almost didn't happen. Everyone was freaking out because there was a tornado warning. And I'm like, guys, there's not going to be a tornado in New York City. Are you guys insane? There was some rain. There was some lightning. When the concert was supposed to start, there was a shelter in place. So we all had to like gather under like the structure. But then I was like, I'm chill. I think everything's going to work out. And then it did. And I'm very happy because when Bob was on stage, not a drop of rain. Everything was perfect. Everyone seemed to be locked in. I talked a lot about these outdoor shows, like where people can be distracted. People were very respectful last night.
What color raincoat was his yesterday?
White. It was a white raincoat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always prepared. It's been pretty rainy here in the Northeast where he's been. So for once he's dressing appropriately.
Yeah. And I like that you kind of like were prepared to match with him whether he's black or white because you're gray. So
exactly. Yeah, it's sort of a slate bluish gray.
I saw Shot of Love 69 post on a meme saying Bob Dylan goes where the weather suits his clothes.
Yeah, exactly. It worked out so well. I just found out, do you know that person, Fat Albert, like personally?
I've never met her.
Yeah, she's a woman. I didn't know she was a woman.
She's a legend, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it made so much sense when I realized that. I was like, of course. I did
she's
really
so
like...
funny, has to be a woman.
Yeah, well, and I saw a post, she just posted like the types of people you see at Bob Dylan concerts and like the different like archetypes, people getting kicked out for filming, people who are like, why can't I understand what he's saying? But then there's also like the woman who's like, I want Bob to see me.
I want him to see me, yeah.
It's like, wait, I love that representation. It's really flattering to be given homage to in that way.
Well, I'm sure he was very into your raincoat.
I'm sure he was.
Really appreciated that.
So Forest Hills, venue where he originally debuted, Desolation Row.
Yeah. One of the first band shows that he played.
Yes.
After Newport, right? Maybe even Beat Fest? Yeah.
Yeah. And he talks about it in the 65 press conference. He's like,
yeah, that was at Newport. Well, I did this very crazy thing. So, I mean, I didn't really know what was going to happen. But they certainly booed, I'll tell you that. You could hear it all over the place. I don't know who they were, though. And I'm certainly whoever it was, did it, loud, twice as loud as they normally would. They kind of quieted down some at Forest Hills, although they did it there too. They've done it just about all over, except in Texas.
The second half was a mess, but the first half, people were so receptive to Desolation Row, they were laughing. And Ballad of a Thin Man, that recording of that show is so, so good. It's unfortunate Swingin' Pig, his YouTube channel got totally copyright stricken like a year ago, and all those great recordings are harder to find now. But listeners, highly recommend.
That is the downside to those 50 anniversary collections that they've been putting out to extend the copyright in Europe, because that means that technically, even if in like really small quantities, these shows have been released. Like that show was on the I think the 1965 anniversary collection came with a massive cutting edge box set. There was like a download available of like this anniversary collection. They're making it so hard. They're making it so hard to get your hands on these. But like, I think that's just as like super nerdy background. I think like that's why probably Swinging Pig got like copyright stricken, because technically those shows have been released, even if it's like in the most
they're
obscure.
out there. They're out there. And let me tell you, last night some of these songs, they were getting giggles from the crowd, from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way his delivery, I got so lucky with the seating of the people around me. There were 2 young women in front of me who were really into it. So it was me and my friend Melissa and Dean and these 2 girls, our little section. We were hooting and hollering. We were dancing on our seats. And there's just like this charming delivery he was getting into, especially on It Ain't Me, Babe, where he was getting real silly with it. Like, it ain't me, babe. Like big scooping vocals. And some of the lines, just like the way he was delivering them was funny. That, and then False Prophet as well. False Prophet was very fun. The band was really grooving. There were some definite lyric changes last night. I couldn't catch all of them, but I would like to research more about that, because it was just such a good show. Everyone, I think, was appreciating it. When you're there, when you're in the moment, it's just the most in the moment thing. You know, to go along with what we've been talking about how Bob as a performer is so in the moment. It's just like it gets everyone who's paying attention in the same place. Oh, it's so perfect.
So what were your highlights? False Prophet.
It Ain't Me, yeah, It Ain't Me, Babe. He did a couple harmonicas. I Shall Be Released. He did harmonica on that. He is such an incredible harmonica player.
Yeah.
That was really beautiful. That was his closing song. And everyone in the crowd, I think, really appreciated that. And then there was one more thing. He's been doing this cover for on and off for, I think, at least a year. Share Your Love With Me, the Bobby Blue. But the way he's doing it sounds almost exactly like the unreleased song I Can't Leave Her Behind from 66.
I've noticed that too.
It was striking to me in the moment. I was like, this melody is so familiar. And then I went and looked at other like bootlegs where he's done that. And it is like uncanny how much the vocals are matching the vocals of I Can't Leave Her Behind.
And I'm just looking this up. Share Your Love With Me was released in 1963. So just in time for Bob Dylan to get inspired and kind of borrow the melody for Can't Leave Her Behind. I thought that too. And I had the same kind of uncanny moment of realization when I heard like a recording of a show, and I was like, wait, I've had Bob Dylan sing this before, you know, but with different lyrics.
I went back, I listened to like the original of it, the Bobby Blue Bland, the Bobby Blue Bland cover original. And it is slightly different, the melody. Like the way that Bob is doing it is more like his own version of it, own version of you.
Well, maybe it's someone else's, because I think Aretha Franklin did it as well. But I haven't checked out her version, so it might be that he's inspired by someone else's version.
But that was very magical. It was all great.
How were the guitar players? How did the band sound?
Oh man, so good. In the beginning, the guitar mix wasn't quite there yet, like the soundboard or whatever. But as it went on, I love the tone of those two guitar players. We had Joel and Jad. Those were our two guys. No Julian Lage this time, but the tone is so like round and smooth and 50s. I think it's really fitting for whatever sound Bob's trying to cultivate. During Masterpiece, which starts out like Istanbul, not Constantinople. It started out like that, like normal, but then before the singing came in, Bob Dylan kind of made a motion to change it. So the riff that Joel Patterson was doing changed a little bit to be less like Istanbul. So that might be morphing more into a new thing in the future.
Wow. Oh, I have to listen to recordings. I have to say, I have not been keeping up with the recent shows. It's just there's always something coming out,
right?
And I think I've just been meaning to sit down and like really, I don't know, listen out for the different changes, like with the different guitar players, because like I would like to do that, but then also I feel like that in my head that turned into something quite like analytical, and I was like, oh, I really need to like take my time with that, and so I just haven't done it yet. I mean, I've listened to bits and pieces and they're all sounding great, but yeah, it's so interesting how everyone always seems so locked in. And even, I mean, I think we've spoken about this before. I think the reason why we all get so excited about little changes to the band, to the set list, to the songs, is because it's really a sign how engaged Bob Dylan is, and like how much he is working to make these shows the best they can be. And, never on autopilot, never just phoning it in. And I think that when these little changes take place, that's when I think we all really zero in on what he's doing. And I think that's really exciting. I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was good.
He's so perfect for us. For the kind of people that love him.
Yeah, and he always gives us something to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I had my own little Bob Dylan odyssey this morning. Well, not really, but I was trying to get tickets because the tickets for the European shows went on sale today. After they went on pre-sale yesterday, on Monday. I don't know, Monday, I think. And they were gone immediately. Like the pre-sale tickets were gone immediately. I didn't manage to get any pre-sale tickets. And then for either of the shows that I was hoping to go to, I mean, I'm trying to go to London. And then also I'll be, if everything works out, hopefully seeing him in Zurich with my family, which will be really fun.
Nice.
Back to the venue where I saw him for the first time. So that's kind of like a lovely full circle moment.
Yay.
So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, pre-sale there also just did not work out. And but I think that was partly our fault, I think. But so, and then today, like, I completely missed out on London tickets because they were just like gone so quickly. I did manage to get tickets for Zurich. But I'm to be honest, at first I was freaking out, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to panic, because I believe in the Bob Dylan community. I believe in I believe in the way things usually go. There will be tickets being sold. There will be spares. So I'm not too worried. But if anyone has good tickets for the London shows, hit me up.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah, I mean, the whole ticket buying experience lately is just a nightmare for absolutely everyone.
It's nerve-wracking. It really is.
No one's having a good time. Probably not even the like scammers. They're probably not even having a good time.
Yeah.
I every time I try to buy tickets recently, I get flagged as a bot, and I am unable to even get to a website that wants me to buy tickets.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Oh
and no one will help me. I can't with these guys. But same thing. I've had to make peace with it and be like, everything will work out. Someone will help me. And usually people help. People
Yeah.
come along and they're able to bypass my bot activity.
I believe good people get tickets.
Get what they deserve.
Yeah, good people will, that the universe will provide.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy.
Yeah, I want to believe that. My name is Laura Tenchett.
My name is Rebecca Slayman, and this is the Bob Dylan Hotline,
where we answer your questions about all things Bob.
Yay! So, we're doing a question today from John Lasser, Dr. John Lasser.
Mm-hmm.
Originally met him at the last Bob Dylan conference through our friend Mason as well, who we met there. Mason
who we've spoken about.
Yes, was his student. So I was introduced to him as Dr. John Lasser. And that's how I just keep calling him. But then I realized like everyone I was talking to was also a doctor and they didn't really feel the need to say that. I think it was Court Carney who was like, why are we calling him Dr. Lasser? Like, oh,
you mean Dr. Court Carney? Dr.
Carney, right. Sorry. Conferences are so funny like that.
Yeah, they are funny like that. Yeah.
Here is his question.
Hey, Bob Dylan Hotline. This is John, and I have a question for you. We're in a golden age of Dylan studies with the opening of the Bob Dylan Center, scholars' access to the Bob Dylan Archive, the World of Bob Dylan Conference every other year, not to mention the proliferation of Dylan-related podcasts and Substacks and Instagram profiles. But I wonder, dear Hotline hosts, what do you perceive as the major blind spots in Dylan studies? What aspects of Dylanology have been neglected? What merits more attention? Thanks for answering my question.
Great question. Thank you, Dr. Lasser.
Thank you, John. It is a really interesting question, especially, I think, because, as we just said, we've met Dr. Lasser at a Bob Dylan conference, and those are spaces that we kind of move in. But then I think the first thing that came to mind for me is that already Dylan studies as a field already implies like a very specialized focus. Because, you know, I mean, Bob Dylan has been talked about since the early 60s, has been, you know, zeroed in on by fans taking what he does very seriously. But I think it's really only been like in the last maybe 2 decades that he's really been embraced by academia, to the point where I think now we can confidently talk about the field of Bob Dylan studies. So I think just almost like as a disclaimer, I want to just let us note that as a field of study is already like so specialized and so zeroed in. And I think what we consider blind spot might be talked about regularly, like on Twitter in fan spaces, or, you know, so I mean, I just think there might be spaces for it that we're not even aware of. I don't know if there are still Dylan fan spaces that elude us, but yeah. So do you want me to go first, or do you want to say something? Or
yeah, I'll just give a brief, the first like reaction to the question, which is I like that he pointed out how saturated the field kind of is, or how it feels, because there's, you know, a lot of people who want to pursue things in this field, and only so many like publishers or job openings that could apply to that sort of thing. So I know there is, you know, some competition in the field, and something I'm, you know, struggling with is trying to find my own niche, and, you know, you kind of have to forge your own path in that way, or at least I do, and it's hard to find a place that hasn't been written about a lot in those kind of spaces, which is why I've stumbled into Hearts of Fire. By the way,
so that's the first answer to the question.
Yes. And by the way, at the concert last night, with the opening acts, Jimmy Vaughn and the Tilt-A-Whirl Band, and then Lucinda Williams, I was getting major that tour that they're on in Hearts of Fire, like the Old Timers tour. I mean, it's awesome, but it really is like he is living the plot of that movie sometimes. In the movie when he's on tour with like Richie Havens, and they're like, they just trot us out to see how old we've gotten. That is the kind of true to a degree. I mean, it's awesome though. Obviously, we love it. We love that that's happening. Okay, sorry. Back to the question. Dylan studies. What's missing?
Well, back in 2021, so in the middle of the pandemic, the second ever World of Bob Dylan conference that was organized by the Institute of Bob Dylan Studies in Tulsa was moved to an online conference. And I had been at the first one in 2019. And in 2021, Sean Latham, the director of the Bob Dylan Institute, approached me and asked me if I wanted to put together a panel for the online conference. Great honor. I was so honored that I was asked. And back then I kind of like asked myself like that question of what does Dylan studies even mean? What is the state of studies, and what is the future? Where could the future lie? And I think in the 5 years since, obviously, there's been so much work that's been done. So many gaps have been filled, like partly because of the archives, that people can go into the archives and, I don't know, write books about infidels or write about the 80s, as kind of an under examined decade. But back then, I think the three points that I came up with, I think I still kind of stand by as if not blind spots, then at least kind of like areas where I would love to see more work done. And obviously, I invited you back then to speak as part of that panel, because I think when I got to know you online, and like the work that I saw you doing was like often focused on fandom, and I think that is one area where Bob Dylan is just so interesting. And I think there is a really interesting oral history that could be written about Bob Dylan fandom through the decades, through changing technologies, and how the communities have organized themselves around that fandom, because we've all made friends through our love for Bob Dylan. And I think, actually, like, I spoke to a friend last night, and I don't know why we're talking about it, but I was telling her about like fan forums and kind of like how I made some friends like through Bob Dylan like years ago. And she was like, "Oh, you should do something on that." I was like, "Well, I don't know, but someone should, I think that would be I think that's really interesting." And then the other point is whatever you want to call what Scott Wormuth is doing.
Right.
Just Scott Wormuth was the second person that I invited. And I think that his work with intertextuality, finding sources, and questioning how Bob Dylan incorporates those sources, how he might be enriching his own text by drawing on like other people's text in a way that, I mean, it still feels like sorcery, the way that Scott is even finding like some of those sources. And it always feels like there's almost this secret undercurrent that so many people are not even aware of. And I just think that's a really fun area of study that I'm not sure how many people can do it in the way that Scott is doing it, but that would be the second one. And then the third one, I'm just gonna keep going. The third person that was part of the panel was Ludo Foster, who spoke about queer Dylan, and I'm so glad that he was part of the panel, because I think to me, like, one of the biggest blind spots in Dylan studies is simply that it is very white and very male still. And whenever I say that, like, someone gets mad at me. And yeah, whatever. they can be mad, but it's true. It is true. And I think we know for a fact that it's true because so often you read something that has been, a standard text in Dylan studies, and you're like, this does not resonate with me at all. I mean, we can go to Clinton Halen for that, but it's just, if a certain perspective becomes the only perspective and goes completely unchallenged, you're missing out. And so I think we need people to shine a light on the aspects of Bob Dylan's very, very varied and beautifully broad career that have not been talked about yet. That can be women, that can be people of color, queer people, more of all of that. I mean, luckily there are already people doing great work in the space, but I hope for more of that.
Yeah. Thank you for talking about me and for bringing me into this world.
Your paper was so great. Everyone was talking about your paper at that conference. That was the huge success.
Yeah. Another thing I worried about a little bit with answering this question is giving up the ghost, giving up what I am interested in, which is the fandom stuff. I would like to do more pertaining to that. After that first paper, even though I know people liked it, I did get worried that I would be kind of pigeonholed or thought of as like not really an academic, because what I was talking about is just like things that people are saying online. But I do think that is important to like document, because the things happening on the internet change so fast, especially when it comes to like teen culture. I want to look a lot more into the relationship between Bob Dylan and his audience and Dylan and the wider culture. Another paper I did was on criticism of Dylan and how that's changed with the culture over time.
That's so interesting.
Thank you.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, because, so much about Bob Dylan, his life, I think there's been too much about his biography that's just been reiterated in, I feel like, hundreds of books about how his life went without really like examining his place in the broader culture. And it's hard to do. And I feel like we can only really start to do it now because you can't analyze a culture that you're in holistically. You can't like see where it goes. You don't see where one thing ends and the other begins. So I am looking forward to doing more of that kind of work. Graylee Heron and Court Carney and I got accepted to the Bruce Springsteen conference this fall. And we're going to be talking about the Rolling Thunder Review.
Cool.
And my aim is to look into the culture around folk music in New York City and how that led up into Dylan returning to the city in 1970 and reconnecting and inspiring the Rolling Thunder Review. So yeah, no matter what the subject, I am always kind of looking for that angle because I feel it's underexplored. And then, yeah, what you're also talking about with fandom spaces is so interesting. I really enjoy, I've talked to Ray Padgett about this a bit. You and him like were on those early forums, Dylan forums in like the 2000s. That is so cool. Those spaces are so like important and formative for a fandom and for people within that fandom to grow and learn things and learn from each other in this decentralized way from the official camp. And that's
it felt like back then, maybe more so than now, I think there was a real divide between kind of the scholars and the fans. The scholars were the ones who wrote books and kind of maybe consider themselves a little too good to participate in fan spaces. Whereas I think there was the real fan community, which was incredibly generous, incredibly open to bringing people in and educating young fans. I mean, I could not have asked for like kinder people that I met like on those forums. Immediately they offered to send me bootlegs back then, like physical CDs, and so it really felt like the world of Bob Dylan really opened up for me because of how people welcomed me, which was really, really special. And I think that was probably in part because there were specialized forums, like forums dedicated to Bob Dylan, which is very different to, social media. I think now the algorithms are specialized enough that you can very quickly find people. But I mean, at least for myself, like I remember when, Facebook happened. God, it really makes me feel ancient talking about it like that. But it felt like two worlds colliding. It's like, oh my God, like my real life friends, and then also like these people that I have found online is a bit strange. It's weird to all of a sudden be so unabashedly incorporating that side of yourself. I mean, not that it was a secret to my friends that I love Bob Dylan. Like, believe me, they all knew. But yeah, it was. I think there was definitely a change in how the community kind of organized itself once there was a move to social media. I think, and now obviously like people have like dedicated accounts for Bob Dylan. It's not basically, I think the internet has again like rearranged itself to accommodate the way people want to be in those spaces and how they want to separate their social circles, which is also interesting.
Yeah, social media is interesting because I wouldn't be here without it. And it is so useful in finding friends and finding like-minded people. But yeah, it is more centralized according to some rich people, how they think we should all become addicted to it. And it's less about our own agency in those things. It's just things fed to us, which is unfortunate, but we do still find each other, and I do enjoy that. One thing that I think is missing in the Bob Dylan space that I found in other online spaces is a better wiki, a better searchable wiki that is not for profit. There's this really great one for the band They Might Be Giants, and that obviously has to do with the kind of fandom that they have, which is more like Gen X nerds who are really good at like websites and got in on the ground floor of that. And there are some great Bob Dylan websites. Obviously, people know Expecting Rain. That's like a good common thing that people all find on their own and go to for news and updates. There's Bob Links. But they all are kind of separate and they each function as one thing. It would be great to have like a more updated wiki where you can find all the set lists, all the different lyric variations. That is like really hard to find. And then also maybe an interactive element like ranking the songs or like saying what concerts you were at. All these things exist in different spaces. It would be nice to have one searchable wiki.
That's such a good point, because I think that is related to the fact that Bob Dylan fandom has also just been around for so long that I think some of the really important and formative Bob Dylan resources online were established in the 90s
and haven't changed much.
And haven't really changed much. And I mean, what a gift Carl Eric is to the Bob Dylan community with Expecting Rain and other people as well. I mean, and the way that certain websites have been moved from one server to the other, that Still on the Road website, which is an incredible resource of Bob Dylan's recording sessions, and also has kind of liner notes and miscellaneous writings that he's published over the years. And I think the person who ran that website, I think his name is Olaf Björne, I think, passed away, and so that's been moved over. God, I don't I don't know the full story behind it, but I'm so glad that the work is kind of being kept alive. I mean, some of the greatest resources, and I think that was kind of my point at the beginning when we started answering this question, is I think the most important work with Bob Dylan has usually grown out of fan spaces first. And they have laid the groundwork for everything, that I think people do in Bob Dylan studies in kind of like this more specialized field. And I think the lines are really blurry as well, because I mean, the people who have written for fanzines, it might not be peer reviewed, but it's still great work that, like, I think other people build on. And in part, probably some of those writings were published in fan spaces simply because there wasn't an outlet in academia for it at the time, whereas now there is. But one of the most important resources is that big PDF file of all the Bob Dylan interviews up to, I think, 2006, Every Mind Pollutant Word, which was, I'm going to actually look this up because this person should be getting credit. That was put together by Artur, like Artur. I don't actually know his last name, but that is such an invaluable resource for like everything I've ever done, everything I've ever written about, every episode that we record. Like, I usually do some research in that file. So I don't know. I think I'm just maybe that goes without saying. But I mentioned that people get mad at me when I say, oh, we need more women, more people of color, more queer people in these spaces. And I think that is, again, like, I think that is their problem when they get mad about it, because I am so grateful for all the work that has been done by everyone who has contributed, and there have always been women and there have always been queer people and people of color, probably. It's just that, like, maybe they have not been like as front and center so far. And I think we can also all agree that they have been in the minority so far. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It is so amazing, all that work that has been done for nothing, for like in exchange for nothing, just for the
love of the game.
It's so great. And yeah, those fan driven things are so valuable. There's one interview with Richard Marquand that was shortly before he died, that was in a Dylan zine and nowhere else. And that was really important for me in my Hearts of Fire research. Again, underexplored part of the fandom and academia. I remember at the podcast panel at the 2023 Dylan conference, there was that question of like, someone asked, why isn't there more diversity in this space? But the truth is that the things that come from fandom are just done if a person wants to do it or not. Whereas getting published or being part of a conference requires these barriers.
Yes.
And that's why on these online you see a much more diversity of fan, and in real life at the concerts last night, I couldn't even believe the different axes of diversity there were at this concert. It was like old, young, relationships of like father-son couples, all different races, ethnicities, people local, people traveling. There was so many people gathered there all appreciating Bob Dylan. And so, yeah, I think it's good that we are speaking about this to encourage people if this is something that you want to pursue. No one's going to stop you from making your own stuff, and that could help you in getting some credibility or whatever that is. And yeah, I am in awe of all the people who have contributed to Bob Dylan spaces for nothing, except for like evangelism, like what I feel. And I have wondered, you mentioned like it would be cool to have like an oral history of all these people who have shaped Bob Dylan fandom. I just wonder, like, who would it be for? You know, if it's about the Bob Dylan fans, what would the audience be for that? Like, would other people be interested?
I mean, I guess you never really know who something is for, like when you put something together.
I guess
or,
Bob
maybe...
doesn't think that. He doesn't think that way.
But I think it is. It's just for posterity because Bob Dylan is an artist who I think will always find fans, and I think in 100 years, I think it will be really interesting to, on the one hand, see how people reacted to Bob Dylan collectively while he was still alive, while he was actively producing work. I mean, already the tide has turned so many times on, when it comes to the public opinion of certain albums, of certain things that certain aspects of Bob Dylan's career, that has already evolved so much since I became a fan. And I think often that has to do with how things are being talked about. And I think what you said is so true. I mean, like the Dylan fans are a diverse bunch. I mean, to a point, I think they could be more diverse, but like overall, I think they're more diverse maybe than you would think if you looked at a bookshelf of books written about Bob Dylan and who the authors are, right? And I think that's kind of, you're so right about how these barriers of entry kind of help determine who actually gets to have an opinion or kind of like broadcast their opinion. And again, this has really shifted in recent years because now anyone can have a podcast, anyone can put their opinions out there, anyone can have a Twitter account where they have a hit tweet, or an Instagram account or whatever. So again, I think that has all really already changed the makeup of Dylan fans and how Bob Dylan is being talked about, which I think is so amazing. I think that's so wonderful. And I think representation really matters because if you're a Bob Dylan fan and you only see, for example, all the books and all the zine articles or whatever that you come across, or all the think pieces you read, like in on fan forums or whatever, are written by men, then maybe if you're not a man, this thought kind of lodges itself in your head where you're like, oh, maybe this is not for me. Maybe I'm not someone who gets to do that. Maybe this is not my space. And maybe you'll find a different niche. I mean, maybe you find a different way of enjoying Bob Dylan's music, because that's the other thing, I think you can be a huge Bob Dylan fan and enjoy his music without participating in that side of fandom or Bob Dylan studies or whatever you want to call it. You don't have to critically analyze his music. And, let's not forget the Bob Dylan fan club was called into being because Bob Dylan asked 2 women that were coming to his shows to start this fan club. So obviously women are in those spaces, But yeah, I just think I personally I want to be careful like how I phrase this. I think when I came into the space, like I personally wasn't necessarily comfortable with like this divide of like, oh, you know, the women are just there for the music and like enjoying it, and the men are like the ones who do the chin scratchy, you know, who take the music really seriously. First of all, because I think that that is not true. But that's also why I think like it's nice to see how those overlap. And I think it's totally fine to get silly and just enjoy and have a good time at Bob Dylan shows. And you know, for you know, anyone who is a chin scratcher to also be able to do that. You know, and to not always have to be serious about it, and yeah, and vice versa. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's just reminding me like the person who embodies that better than anyone is Harry Hugh, who was my fleet-footed guide from the underworld, who really welcomed me into the Bob Dylan fandom and does so much of that work of compiling interviews and clipping things and just like sending people information for the love of the game. I really miss Harry. He's not as active anymore because, you know, social media has gone down the toilet. But Harry, you're the real one. I think he definitely belongs in the pantheon of like the canon of Dylan fans, scholars, whatever. He bridges that gap so well and is so welcoming and will always help you out for any like Bob Dylan question. He's so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
The other thing,
and what?
Sorry.
No, good.
The other thing about the concert last night is I was expecting to see more like, I don't know, celebrities, and there were some there scattered throughout, but the one guy I saw like at least 8 times walk by me was Paul Schrader, who was canceled last year for a sexual assault, I think. But I have had so many opportunities to like talk to this guy. And a couple of years ago, I was like interested, like, oh, if I ever see him, I want to ask him about the Tight Connection to My Heart music video, which he directed. But every time I've like come close to interacting with him before like the allegations came out, I'm like, this guy is creepy. This guy is just like a scary old man. And he's just like one of those gross old guys who are like, rah, rah. Like that's kind of how they sound all the time. And every time, like, I used to work in a movie place, so he would be by sometimes, and I'd be like, man, I want to talk to him about Bob Dylan. And I never did, and I'm glad I never did. But at this concert last night, he was really like available. Like it seemed like maybe since these allegations came out, he had like maybe gotten approached less because he was really like seemed to be inviting. Anyone want to talk to the big movie director?
Yeah, wearing a t-shirt saying, ask me about Tight Connection to My Heart.
Yeah, and he didn't, and no one did, which was good to see. But yeah, follow your instincts with these things because there are creeps in these spaces, and we have an intuition.
God, yeah. Man, I've had some really creepy stuff happen to me at like ooh, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna go there, but I've had some, like that, and that's the other thing, you know, like the majority of all Bob Dylan fans are great, but there are also some creeps, and I think that sometimes it's really nice when you. I mean, like, okay, this is not that creepy, but I was at a Bob Dylan show when I think I was maybe 22. 21, 22, and I was almost in front row, like maybe second row, and next to me were like these 2 or 3 girls who were 15, and I felt like the wise old owl imparting my Dylan wisdom. I was like, I was just like you once. As I was so excited for them. It was their first Bob Dylan show. They were big fans. It was so cool. I was like, yeah, I love this. You're just like me, just like I was a couple of years ago. And then the show began, and there was this big man, and he pushed these girls out of the way, elbowed them out of front row so that he could be in front row.
Oh my god.
And I was like, you cannot be serious. This is not happening right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of said to him, like, excuse me, I kind of like tried to have them take their spots back. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to say if I hadn't been there, like no one else would have come to, stand up for these girls or whatever. But like, I think it's nice when fandom polices itself a little bit. And again, I think it's always, I don't know if I have a point here, but
no, it's just a good example of toxicity in the fandom.
And maybe also you can also see that kind of like metaphorically in spaces where thoughts are being shared, because I do sometimes think sometimes men are just more comfortable taking up space and talking over other people who are less represented.
And I want to point out, like, this isn't exclusive to Bob Dylan fandom, but like humor can be used as like a weapon against more inclusivity or whatever, intentionally or not. I see this a lot with like Geese and Cameron Winter these days, where it's like, oh, all their fans are like white boys who live in Brooklyn, etc. And it's just like, it's a joke, but it's like denying the reality that like there are women and other kinds of people part of the fandom. And if you just like, these jokes get repeated and repeated, it starts to feel like it is like a boys club or whatever, even if it's supposed to be like making fun of that or whatever. The same thing happens with Bob Dylan, like, oh, the only people who go there are old white people, denying the reality of the situation.
It's the Bernie bro syndrome.
That's a really good connection. Yeah.
Where I think like it was used against Bernie Sanders, this idea that like all his fans are these lefty men who are really argumentative, when like really his supporting base was like really diverse and included all kinds of people.
Yeah. And it's like those jokes get repeated, and then someone who does not fall into that demographic is like, oh, well, then that's not for me.
It's not for me. Yeah.
And then it's just like blocking something really great from reaching their lives. So that's why, it's so great that we're around.
I think that is really so true. And I think with Bob Dylan, it's also wrapped up a little bit in the bias towards his 60s work, especially like his early 60s work, where I think it's understandable, I guess, that the first image that still comes to mind when people think of Bob Dylan is, the folk singer with a guitar. But when you look at his musical output, it's so varied and draws on so many musical traditions. There's absolutely no reason why it wouldn't appeal to like a really wide fan base, maybe much wider than it actually is. Be it from gospel to I sometimes have a hard time like even putting a name on like what the genre of Bob Dylan is, because he's his own genre,
he's
which
his
is
own thing, no matter what.
And that's a very inconsistent genre at that, right? Because like it's not like it stays one thing. But that's the beauty of his career.
as far as what I want to see more of in Dylan's studies, I want more like close reading lyrical analysis. I feel like so much is just done about like Bob the guy. And I think in the future it will be more shifted towards Bob the lyricist, or just the lyrics themselves.
It's interesting that you say that, because like I almost feel like that's kind of like where Dylan studies came from.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like it's shifted more towards him, like Bob Dylan the person, as a text more recently. But
like Michael Gray's stuff was so good, and I want to see more stuff like in that vein.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is in the Clinton Halen vein, I feel.
I mean, I will also say we've received a couple of questions for the Bob Dylan Hotline about our favorite books on Bob Dylan, and maybe we'll do like an episode on that like another time. But like, I think it is interesting to see what gets published and what gets written about at what stage in his career. And I mean, again, now sometimes it really feels like now people are really trying to find their niche and trying to find things to write about that no one else has written about yet.
Yeah.
And that's and that is I mean, it's no small feat, for one, because so many books have been written about Bob Dylan already. I think it's always, I don't know if that's even true. What I was going to say? I was going to say I enjoy when people focus on the performance a little bit more. But at the same time, I also understand. I mean, that's because Paul Williams is my favorite writer on Bob Dylan. He wrote the Performing Artist series, and I think he is the GOAT. But at the same time, I also understand why his lyrics are written about more than his performances, because it's simply easier to write about lyrics, whereas performance is so ephemeral and so subjective in the way that you receive it and the way that it lands with you, which is what makes Paul Williams such a great writer, because I think the way he writes about it is so incredibly engaging and moving. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Like I mean, maybe that's my own. Maybe that's partly my own niche. So maybe I'm talking about myself. But I think everything that's not music in Bob Dylan's work has not been studied very much. Maybe I'm particularly talking about his visual art. Just because I think a lot of people almost seem to be thinking about Bob Dylan, as a musician, which obviously he is first and foremost. There's no doubt about that. I'm not trying to argue that he is as important of a painter as he is a musician, but while I understand that some people are simply not interested in the films, the prose writing, the visual art, or whatever, I think that it is interesting to see like how they inform one another and how certain themes kind of crop up in different ways. So I don't know. That's something that I'm personally interested in. Mondo Scripto.
Yeah. Once again, like we're saying things we're missing that we're interested in doing ourselves. So
yeah,
hopefully soon they won't be missing from the scholarship as much.
Gotta do it ourselves. This has been the Bob Dylan Hotline. If you have any questions for us, please send us a voice memo to bobdylanhotline@gmail.com.
And we'll do our best to answer it.
Yes. And we'll do our best to answer it.
But the answer, my friend,
is blowing in the wind.